Hey guys, so welcome to Data Beats. I'm Kunaal Naik. Also, by the way, I'm a data science coach. And today we've got Nick from Workstream who's going to help us understand what is data knowledge management. Hey, Nick, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
In simple terms, what is data knowledge management or DKM?
From my perspective, data knowledge management is simply just something that allows people throughout a business or a company to get more out of their data analytics and reporting assets, right? So it's a really a single place to access this stuff, consume training and knowledge, and ultimately collaborate with others throughout the business.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Do companies need both a DKM solution and a data catalog solution?
I think data knowledge management is fundamentally different for a couple of reasons. I think the first is to think about the way a DKM solution integrates with your data stack, and I really see that as fundamentally integrating at the data consumption layer, whereas a data catalog is fundamentally built around your data warehouse. So, from an integration perspective, there's a lot of differences. And then I think with regards to the jobs to be done and the users who use a DKM solution, it's fundamentally much more about empowering business users about analytics that have been created. And so the majority of users of a DKM solution live within your CX org or your product org or your sales org, and they're less folks building out analytics for themselves and trying to understand how to do that better.
Okay. Now, can you also briefly just describe how one can maximize their value in using a DKM solution? And what would the typical workflow look like?
Yeah, so I mean, I think of what's the tipping point for when someone might want to introduce a DKM solution into their environment. And I think there's kind of like two vectors. One is just like the pure number of like data assets and analytics assets that are out there within your environment. And so, like, what should we be looking at? What should we trust? So I say that's one vector, and then I think a compounding vector, which I think is really interesting when you look at trends in like the data ecosystem in the last 5 years, is just more and more tools that teams are using to consume data, and it's no longer just your BI tool or one-off spreadsheets here and there. There's data that's being pushed into all sorts of solutions. There are product analytics solutions, as an example. Maybe folks are leveraging multiple tools to analyze data. So the more systems that you have, there's more sprawl, right? And so really, it's kind of as that entropy tipping point. As you get through it is normally when folks would say, "Hey, we're really experiencing some acute problems here, and let's introduce a data knowledge management solution."
And so you establish that it is beneficial for both small and big data teams using the DKM solution. However, are there any prerequisites in terms of data stack for companies to derive value from a DKM solution?
Yeah, I think in general, one of the things I would say is you can think of the value being derived fundamentally about the ROI of your team's time, right? Which of course translates into um, money and opportunity cost, right? And the time spent training and enabling the organization, right? And we can really help collapse that, or a DKM solution can help collapse that. I would, with regards to what's the prerequisite, I really think this is like more of a year two type of purchase, right? Like you're not going to purchase a DKM solution like right after you've bought Snowflake. You kind of want to have rolled out your data stack. And it's after you've rolled out your data stack and you're really seeing your organization adopt it that you would introduce a DKM solution as you see that transition to entropy starting to take.
Absolutely, thank you. And so, really quickly, which industries are typically going to need this faster than any other industry compared to another industry?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to hear your perspective on this, right? Because you think a lot about data science and trends and analytics. But What we see are just generally like the early adopters of like the modern data stack and like the latest and greatest like technologies. And for us, that's generally meant like technology companies, retail businesses, media businesses, and it's companies that have achieved some level of like complexity and scale. That generally see a fit here.
Absolutely. And Nick, I think so. We have like digital marketing, SaaS tools, technology companies using this most often. I've been consulting with some of these teams, and they find it very useful.
Yeah, lots of direct to consumer companies, right, which have always been like big adopters of like modern data technologies because they're like such data intensive businesses. As an example.
Absolutely. And so, Nick, last question for you. What's the one piece of advice you have for companies evaluating a data discovery, cataloging, or knowledge management solution?
Yeah, I would just think about what's the most acute problem that your organization more broadly is experiencing, right? And that relates both to like what your business is as well as to how you've like organized your analytics function and how it supports the business, right? And I think if you're just focused on, hey, what are the true pain points we're experiencing here as an organization, and you implement a solution to solve those, like you're going to be in great shape.
Help bridge the gap between data people and non data people. Join us on databeats.community.